that when you talk to the players and the coaches, all of them think that their offense is going to rest on Haas getting it done, and he is a good cold weather quarterback.
And without a rushing attack, you can bet the Packers will be coming after Jeff Hostetler, and you can bet we'll be seeing the 7-time Pro Bowler, Reggie White.
Well, I think Reggie's going to pin his ears back and go for the pass rush. They don't have to worry about the run today.
We're also on the verge of some NFL history. Sterling Sharp trying to become the first player in NFL history to record back-to-back 100-catch seasons. In fact, trying to become the first ever to have two 100-catch seasons. And the Packers will kick off. It'll be Chris Jackie to kick off for Green Bay. And back deep for the Los Angeles Raiders, Raghib Ismail, along with the other speedsters, Willie Gault and Alexander Wright. A low short kick. And this is taken by the Rocket, and the Rocket across midfield all the way down to the Green Bay Packer 44-yard line before he's finally run out of bounds by Sammy Walker. So Ismail, the leading kickoff returner in the AFC, sets up the Raiders in fine position for their first offensive series. Another look at the kickoff return by the Rocket.
This is a big hole, Dan. Look at this. And with this kind of speed, you can't afford to let this guy get outside like this. Actually, Green Bay's lucky they got him down. I think the field hurt him a little bit there when he made the cut, slowed him down.
Well, that one good for 46 yards, and Jeff Hostetler will set up at the 44-yard line for Los Angeles. And the first carry of the game goes to Nick Bell, and he'll get no more than 2 or 3. The offense led by Jeff Hostetler, who, by the way, last week broke a 30-year-old Raider mark for rushing touchdowns with his 5th. Up front for him is Perry Wisniewski, Mosbar and Montoya, the veterans, and the right tackle Bruce Wilkerson. And behind him, Nick Bell gets the start. Steve Smith, an injured ankle, but he'll start. Tim Brown having his finest season ever. Alexander Wright coming off his first 100-yard game ever. Horton is the tight end, and we'll see the Rocket on the 3 wideout formation. And the ball resting at the 41, so it'll be 2nd down and 7 for Los Angeles. And Hostetler to the air for the first time. On the far side, he's got Tim Brown, and Brown had a look at the first down marker, but he was run back by Terrell Buckley, the left cornerback.
Yeah, actually, Buckley did a heck of a job there because they're just going to wind up with about a 3rd down and short here where he had a chance to get the first down there. It was a good tackle, good heads-up tackle on the outside.
Front 7 for the Packers. Reggie White turned 32 last Sunday, says he's playing his finest football ever. Wayne Simmons gets the start. It's a depleted linebacking core for the Packers. Holland and Bennett also at linebacker, and the secondary, George Teague, the free safety, is the rookie in this secondary. And this carry this time to Nick Bell, driven back by John Yurkovic, the nose tackle for Green Bay, and that'll bring up 4th down. And we could see Jeff Jager come in for a field goal attempt.
A big decision here, Dan. I think they could be hesitating on the sideline. Art Shell saying, do we go for it here?
And here comes Jeff Gossett. And he will line up in punt formation back close to midfield. So on 4th and a long yard, the Raiders will try to pin back the Packers.
And we saw the Achilles heels of the Raiders not being able to rush that football right there is already showing up in the game.
Mike McGuire is the deep back for the Packers, and he'll let this one roll into the end zone. So Green Bay will get its first shot, 1st and 10 from the 20. Brett Favre is the quarterback for Green Bay on the verge of a 3,000-yard season, but he has also thrown 20 interceptions. That is an NFL high. And up front for Green Bay, Rutgers, Wydell, Winters, Galbraith, the free agent from Miami, along with Joe Sims at right tackle. And Darrell Thompson and Edgar Bennett, the running back. Sterling Sharp, 99 receptions, just 1 catch away from another 100-catch season. Ed West filling in for the injured Jackie Harris at tight end. And And the Packers' first play from scrimmage is Darrell Thompson, and Thompson may have gotten a yard. The Raiders come in the third-ranked defense in the NFL, led by the veteran Howie Long. The rising star, second-year player out of Clemson, is Chester McLaughlin. The linebackers Wallace Kelly and Winston Moss. Moss, the leading tackler. And in the secondary, they're led by Terry McDaniel. His 5 interceptions leads this unit, and the Raiders #1 against the pass in the NFL, and they'll bring in Torrin Dorn as the nickel back. Second down and 8 for Green Bay, and the pitch is to Edgar Bennett. And Bennett gets up to about the 25-yard line before he's brought down by Nolan Harrison.
I think it's going to be an interesting contrast in this game between Favre and Hostetler. Here you have two quarterbacks, one of them an older guy that's very precise, throws very few interceptions. And actually the criticism, of Favre is the fact that he's thrown 20 interceptions and turned the ball over. So it's going to be important for him to play very smart today, and it's going to be very important for him not to turn the ball over.
Third down and 5 as you look at the numbers for Brett Favre. Good completion rate at over 61%. And he'll pass on the third down. And this one complete to Darrell Thompson. Thompson pretty much no gain there. Maybe got a yard, but that will bring up fourth down and the punting unit for Green Bay. Ryan Wagner will come on to punt it away.
This is a gamble, this kind of a call, because it's a screen and you have one man in the route, Dan. In this case, it's just one guy that Favre has a chance to throw to. In this case, an underscreen. And the Raiders, in this case, were playing man-to-man, went right with him and made the tackle. And you'd like to have a zone defense when you have that call and have the Raiders drop him back and get your lineman in front of your back.
Well, there is Tim Brown for the Los Angeles Raiders, the all-time punt return leader for Los Angeles, and has a chance at the 39. Gets some blocks at about the 45 and gets it up to the 49-yard line, where the Raiders will have their second offensive series. Opening moments at Lambeau Field. We are scoreless.
Are your friends car guys? Car guys talk horsepower. They talk acceleration. They talk big fat tires. Now why not invite your pals over and give them something to really talk about? Introducing the four-wheel drive Passport from Honda.
You don't stop playing baseball after 27 years and then just sit around. Over my career, I developed habits that keep me in shape. Regular workouts will always be a part of my life. And when I get sore, I take Advil. It's strong, it works, and I know it helps. And Advil's gentler on my stomach than aspirin. I know if I keep working out, I'll stay in shape. And when I get sore, Advil will keep working for me. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
Sellout at Lambeau Field, almost 60,000 here, braving the temperatures. 0 degrees at kickoff, minus 18 wind chill, and I guess when it's this cold, Joe, you
that was Ditka. Wasn't that Ditka? Oh, no, okay.
You're got to be as creative as you possibly can. The coldest game, of course, in Lambeau Field history back in 1967, the Ice Bowl. It was minus 35 degrees back in 1990, so this would go down as the third coldest game in the history of Lambeau Field, which has been here for 37 years. First down and 10. Hostetler's pass is knocked down at the line of scrimmage by Reggie White.
Reggie, they'll be moving him all over the place. Of course, one of the keys and the big story in the offseason with free agency, and certainly I think in this case, Green Bay got their money's worth. I don't care what they pay this guy, he's worth it. Here he is, really kind of stopped on the pass rush, comes back around and bats the ball down. All those years, Dan, I was on that sideline. I used to fake it and say, hey, guys, come on out there, Redskin weather. I'll tell you what, many times I'm sitting there going, I am freezing to death. How are they doing this?
2nd and 10 for the Raiders. Butler to pass, dumps it over the middle to Tim Brown, looking for the 40-yard line. Needed to get to about inside the 41 for the first down, and Tim Brown is very close. Brought down by Johnny Holland along with help from Reggie White.
That's a good example of his hustle. Reggie White in that case was rushing the passer. The ball's dropped. This guy never says quit. Turns around and watch him come all the way back in here and get on the tackle. That's the kind of heart this guy has, and that's what he has a way of exuding to the rest of the players.
Reggie White turned 32 years old last Sunday, and indeed a 1st and 10 for the Raiders from the Packer 40. And this is Nick Bell, and Nick Bell may have gotten a yard, but that is all. And we've mentioned the depleted running game of the Los Angeles Raiders. Nick Bell now the featured back, the starter. The leading rusher, rookie Greg Robinson, out after knee surgery to repair torn cartilage he suffered 3 weeks ago in Buffalo. And so without Robinson, Nick Bell has been pressed into service. And this is a man that has been injured, has missed 6 games this year. So it's been a slow start for Nick Bell in the starting role.
Yeah, I sense the Raiders would like to show some running game. And we talked to some of their offensive linemen, and they said they're taking bigger splits today to try and get a running game going.
Butler to pass, looking downfield, and this one in the vicinity of Alexander Wright.
Basically, Dan, what they were trying to say, the offensive linemen, they felt like they've been tightening their splits up, and what they were going to do for this game is try and take a wider split, and with the field being as slick as it is, just kind of come off and zone block a lot today to try and get the running game going. So far, though, they've had very little success with it.
And Alexander Wright not having a chance at all at that, so that'll bring up 3rd down and 10 for Los Angeles. The ball at the 40-yard line of Green Bay. Not the kind of situation the Raiders wanted to be in. 3rd and long, a flag on the play as Hostetler was pressured. A pass intended for Bell out of the backfield, and Hostetler hitting that frozen tundra very hard at about the 45.
We were talking to Art Shell last night, and he was saying that, you know, we talked about, hey, you're not being able to rush the football very well. Let's listen to the call here. The referee's also frozen up, Dan.
Perhaps the microphone of Ron Blum is frozen, so we can't hear exactly what the indication was, but here's another look at Hostetler.
Excellent pass rush. And you see the pressure here by Green Bay. When we talked last night to Art Shell, he was saying, hey, if we can't run, Haas can get it done for us. I think they have real confidence in him, but they're putting a lot of pressure on Hostetler today, I think.
So the penalty against Green Bay brings up 3rd down and 5. And Hostetler's pass just over the outstretched arms of James Jett. Incomplete. That will bring up 4th down, and once again Gossett will come on to punt it away for the Raiders.
Hostetler just trying to hit a quick post route here to the outside. That's a timing route. In other words, the quarterback goes back just for 5 steps, hits Dan, and explodes that ball to the post. Could be a big gainer, but in this case the ball's high.
So Gossett will stand at midfield, and back once again is Mike Pryor, who had an excellent game last week, filling in for the injured Robert Brooks. He had 4 punt returns for 50 yards last week. Gossett angling it toward the right side, and this time getting the kind of action he'd hoped for in his first punt. That will be down at the 4-yard line. So Green Bay will begin deep inside its territory when we come back.
Don't even think about it. in 10 minutes.
While virtual reality isn't quite here yet, the car is. The new Accord from Honda.
In half a minute, millions of people will be focused on me. Hey, I want to look every bit the professional sportscaster. You can't have flakes. I had them. Not now. Not with this. You see, Head & Shoulders gets to 10 times more of the places flakes start than it did just a few years ago.
5 seconds.
That keeps my hair looking its best and me in top form.
All set.
Especially when I'm facing some of the biggest names in sports.
Whoa. Head & Shoulders turns dandruff problems into great-looking hair.
The NFL on NBC is brought to you by Rayovac Renewal, reusable alkaline power. That's the power of renewal. By Pepsi, who reminds you to be young, have fun, drink Pepsi. By the U.S. Army, learn how to get an edge on life. Be all you can be. And by American Honda, who has been making quality cars in America for the past 11 years.
Dan Hicks and Joe Gibbs back in storied Lambeau Field. The Cheeseheads are out, and Sterling Sharp, not only does he need one catch to become the only player in NFL history with 2 100-catch seasons, one catch will also get him second place in the team history leading receiver department for Green Bay. As the Packers begin from the 4-yard line, Brett Favre on the run and just trying to get rid of it. He does so, intended for Sterling Sharp, but Brett Favre was pressured by Nolan Harrison, the right tackle for Los Angeles.
The route here on the outside, as we see, really is kind of a broken route because the quarterback scrambles out of the pocket here, something that Favre has a good ability at doing. When I was talking to Mike Holmgren last night, he made the point, Dan, he said, I need that kind of quarterback with the 49er type style offense. I need somebody that can move around like a Joe Montana, and this guy can do it. He likes him a lot.
13-year veteran Howie Long on 2nd down and 10 for Green Bay. They'll keep it on the ground, and this is Edgar Bennett. And Bennett fighting his way up to about the 9-yard line before he's met by Winston Moss of the Raiders.
I think what Favre is going through here in this town now, Dan, is 2 years. The honeymoon's kind of worn off, and the fans have seen him make a few mistakes. And all quarterbacks have to go through that. There comes a point where everybody starts getting on them. They got to adjust to that and be able to handle that. And I think he's going through that right now. And talking to Holmgren last night, he said he's dealing with it. This kid has a great arm, can do all the things you want him to do, and he's having to deal with that kind of pressure now.
Well, there is Brett Favre, who last year had the spectacular all-time best for Packer, 64+ percentage rate, and this is the pass out of the backfield to Edgar Bennett, and Bennett has the first down up to the 23-yard line for Green Bay. So we haven't seen Sterling Sharp yet, but the pass to Edgar Bennett there picks up the Packer first down.
What's so amazing about Sterling Sharp is that everybody on the defense also knows that Favre's going to be looking for him. As we see here, just a little flat route really to the back. A heck of a job by Favre, just getting that thing off, a little pressure, getting it off over the top.
Edgar Bennett, the second leading receiver behind Sharp on this team, also the third among NFC running backs. That is the 50th reception for Edgar Bennett on the year. A first down and 10. The Packers operating from the 23. Favre was looking for Sharp. He wasn't open, so Favre will scramble and is close to another first down across the 30 to the 32.
Now, that's a heck of a play. And in the past, what's been happening when you talk to Coach Holmgren, he says, you know, Brett just throws too many interceptions this year. This is a great play. Your quarterback has to make a great play when there's nothing there. Many times the quarterback's best plays are these kind of plays right here. He didn't make a mistake by throwing the ball into a crowd when everything's covered. He pulls it down and runs with it. And you can always overcome a sack, and certainly in this case he made yards, but you can't overcome interceptions.
Well, two fine scrambling quarterbacks on the field today. Jeff Hostetler and Brett Favre. Favre 194 yards rushing coming in. This on the ground to Edgar Bennett. He is met by Chester McLaughlin. As we look at some of the other scores around the NFL, a big one that the folks in Lambeau Field here are watching, Chicago and Detroit. The Bears lead it 7-0 in the first. So a Packer win here today and a loss by the Lions, and the Packers are in the playoffs. In the playoffs for the first time in 21 years.
That blows my mind. It really does. You always think of Green Bay having such a great tradition and everything, but 21 years, that's unbelievable.
So 1st and 10 from the 34. And Favre's pass intended for Ed West, the tight end, and a flag on the play. It was Joe Kelly who was all over Ed West.
Yeah, I think we could see that very easily from up here. I'm surprised it took that long to throw the flag.
And indeed, the indication against the Raiders, who are on the verge of setting a new NFL record for penalties.
You actually get a little pressure here. Favre does it. Put the ball, the only place the tight end could get that back to the inside.
Defense, spot foul, first down.
Well, the Raiders are 14 penalties and 168 yards away from breaking NFL records in both categories.
Yeah, and as we talked to Art Shell, he said, hey, I think everybody's got the attitude that we're tough. They get tough when teams that play them come to town, and so it becomes a physical battle, and everybody looks at the Raiders as being guys that give a lot of penalties, and it carries over.
Flagged 12 times for over 100 yards last week. Darrell Thompson gets the call on 1st and 10, and let's take our first visit to our New York studios, the warm studios in Jim Lampley.
And Dan, in the icebox in Buffalo, Thurman Thomas off the opening drive gets credit for a 2-yard touchdown run, but should it have been a touchdown? See Thomas bobble the ball as he crosses the goal line in front of the Jets linebacker. As Jets players signaled the touchback, an official stepped in and called TD. 7-0 Buffalo. Back to Dan.
All right, Jim, we understand the coldest day ever for a football game in Buffalo, and 0 degrees, minus 18 wind chill factor here. 2nd and 8. Favre has Sterling Sharp, and Sterling Sharp has the record. Catch number 100 for Sterling Sharp, the first player in NFL history to have 2 100-catch seasons, and they will stop the game for a moment or two to honor Sterling Sharp and give him the game ball.
I had experience like this, Dan, with Art Monk. 2 similar type guys here, Art Monk, and we stopped the game and gave him the ball, 106 catches. Can you believe it, though, that this guy is going to do it back-to-back, over 100 catches? That is an amazing accomplishment, and certainly he deserves everything that he gets today. And like I said, this team is not loaded with talented receivers from the standpoint the other team knows they're going to be looking for Sterling. What's he get it on? A fade route. A heck of a throw here by Favre, getting the ball up over the top. It's just press coverage with a fade.
So the historic catch by Sharp sets up the Packers at the 35, and Edgar Bennett gets the 1st and 10 call, and a lot of milestones being racked up by Sterling Sharp. Not only does he become the first to grab 100 in 2 seasons, he set the NFL record, of course, last year with 108 catches, and he has a chance to break that record as well, on pace to pass 108 catches that he made last year. As you look at the all-time leading receivers, 4 1,000-yard seasons also for Sterling Sharp. 2nd down and 6 for the Packers. A little bootleg by Favre, rolling to his right, wanted Mark Chumera, the tight end, and incomplete.
As we look at the record, you're going to see that really the Raiders and their style of play is pressed on the outside. That's what they're doing. They're pressing Sterling Sharp. He does a good job of getting around the cornerback. Favre puts it up over the top. That's the kind of throw that you need against press coverage. A little change up here by Green Bay on the last play. They went with 2 tight ends, and they've tried to run the ball a couple times with that. In that case, they tried to go with a little bootleg and dump the ball off and just drop it.
The Green Bay Packers trying to make the playoffs for the first time in 21 years in a non-strike season. 3rd down and 5 from the 30. Favre, pass over the middle, incomplete. It was intended for Robert Brooks. Incomplete. Brooks, recovering from a separated left shoulder, has missed a couple of games and is back in the lineup for Mike Holmgren. But that will bring up 4th down.
It was interesting. I was asking Mike, how does your family adjust coming from California back to this kind of weather? He's got 4 girls. He said, man, they actually love it back here. 2 of his girls were going to school back in this area anyway, and that fit in great. I said, it's got to be tough bringing 4 girls from California back to this kind of weather. He said, not at all. We love it back here. And, of course, what a great job he's done in the 2 years here. And he's getting ready to put them back, it looks like, with 2 winning seasons back-to-back. What an accomplishment for a young coach.
Brian Wagner to come into punt. Tim Brown will watch this angle over his head, and the Packers fall on it at about the 13-yard line. So Los Angeles will set up at the 13 when we come back. Frigid Lambeau Field in Green Bay.
You now command the supreme power in the universe. Rayovac Renewal, a new kind of alkaline battery created to be reusable. Renewal batteries outlive copper tops because they're reusable 25 times or more. They outperform old-fashioned rechargeables because you get alkaline power in every charge. More power, more game time. That's the power of renewal from Rayovac.
This is what we call an auction market. Every trade, every buy, every sell is done right out here in the open for everyone to see.
If you're an investor, you get a fair price every time.
If you're a CEO, your company gets the quality market it needs for long-term growth.
State-of-the-art technology.
And good old American fair play.
There is a difference where your stock is traded. The American Stock Exchange.
Fair trade, fair practice, fair play.
Presenting a luxury car that redefines your expectations of an automobile. It features dual airbags, power windows, mirrors, and door locks, and an AM/FM high-power stereo cassette, all standard. Introducing...
Excuse us. Are you talking about the Civic LX?
No.
Oh, sorry. It's just that it has all those features, too.
How nice.
The Civic LX from Honda.
Could you move the car now?
Joe, I believe I saw you modeling the same headgear on NFL Live today.
That's the end look right there today.
Just the 7th regular season meeting between the Packers and the Raiders, and believe it or not, the Raiders are 3-0 here, and Art Shell told us last night that, you know, you may believe that the Raiders would have a tough time coming in here, the cold weather, a Southern California team, but it's really the opposite.
Yeah, they've actually played 4 cold weather games, and they're 3-1 in those. You could tell he was kind of selling his players, hey, we've already been in cold weather.
And this is Nick Bell, the first down carry, gets some good yardage up the middle, and let's head back to New York and check in with Jim Lampley.
Take a look at the Parcells Pats, Dan, in search of a 3rd straight win. 44 opening drive rush yards for Leonard Russell. He takes it in from 2 yards out. Pats' first TD on the opening drive all year. And they lead Indianapolis 7-0. Back to Dan and Joe.
All right, Jim, a swift-moving first quarter here. 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. And the Raiders once again on the ground. This is Nick Bell, and Nick Bell stopped just across the 20-yard line by Tony Bennett. Bennett, the sack leader the last couple of years for Green Bay, has just 4 sacks so far this year, though.
Yeah, this is a little counter play with Nick Bell. Now, what you're going to see, it comes down to times just like this, Dan. Games boil down to key plays. 3rd down normally is the key. 3rd down 2 to 6 area. This is 3rd down and 1. They got to get this running. If they're going to win ball games in this kind of weather and go into the playoffs, they need to get this. The Raiders do right here.
Raiders with the 3rd worst rushing attack in the NFL. But they passed their way to 3 straight wins, and Hostetler trying to pass it here will go down at the 11-yard line. It was Johnny Holland and John Yurkovic that sacked Jeff Hostetler.
And I think that's what happens. You know, instead of running for a 3rd down and a yard and a half, which the Raiders, you know, tough physical football team, they're having to resort to the pass. I don't think they have the confidence in the run. And, of course, that comes back to haunt you on a day like this, on a field like this, when you need to take that ball and pound it on 3rd and 1.5 and get it.
So Gossett stands at the 6, and it is Mike Pryor at his own 42. Low spiraling punt taken by Pryor at the 44. Slips and falls and gets knocked at the 49, but an extra effort gets him into Raider territory at about the 47. So Green Bay with another chance. We'll We'll be right back.
Images presented by Honda. Whose senses are so acute that they can determine which is more frightening, the moment of impact or the moment immediately before impact?
The new Accord EX Coupe. There's more horsepower. Handling and comfort are perfectly balanced. It has dual airbags and anti-lock brakes. We've taken it about as far as you can go. The new Accord EX Coupe from Honda.
Wouldn't it be great if you were stranded on a desert island with a beautiful woman named Betty? Cool. And while scouting the island, you were suddenly surrounded. You! But then, they noticed your shoes. You! Great one! Booga, booga! So they gave you gifts. Keystone Light and Keystone Dry. Specially lined for really smooth. Bottle beer taste in can! Tweetin' time! Wouldn't that be great?
And now let's take a look at the natural gas quarterback efficiency ratings. Steve Young of San Francisco leading the way, but the 49ers with a tough loss to Houston yesterday. Jeff Hostetler of the Raiders 8th, and Brett Favre 17th with a 74.1 rating. A much different season for the third-year player out of Southern Miss. All-Pro last year with a team record completion rate of plus 64%, but how quickly things can change, Joe Gibbs. The 20 interceptions, he's been criticized this year.
Yeah, he's been criticized in town. That's going to happen to a quarterback. He's got to get used to that because that's going to happen to all quarterbacks in this league.
Favre looking for Sharp, overthrows him, and behind Sharp was Terry McDaniel, who had a chance at an interception. Let's go back to New York and rejoin Jim Lampley.
And as you guys relax in balmy Green Bay, you can be happy that you are not in snowy Buffalo. But Johnny Johnson feels all right, celebrating his new 2-year, $5 million contract with this 24-yard screen pass catch and touchdown from Boomer Esiason. Jets' first TD pass in 22 quarters, 7-7. Dan?
Well, I don't know about balmy Green Bay, Jim, but second down at 10 for the Packers. Favre to pass again, and this down in the backfield, intended for Darrell Thompson. Howie Long was right in Brett Favre's face on that play.
Howie Long, I coached this guy in the Pro Bowl a number of years back. This is one of the, over year in and year out, this is also one of the best defensive linemen in the league. I'm sure he's excited to be on the field with Reggie White getting all the attention he does. This guy right here has been around a long time. Also, I might add, my wife, we were to go over in Hawaii, she says he also has one of the best bodies she's ever seen.
Been better than yours, Joe.
A little better.
Third down and 10. Favre looking over the middle for Robert Brooks, incomplete. So both teams having difficulty with any sustained drives. So the Packers will punt it away once again. Brian Wagner comes onto the field for Mike Holmgren. Holmgren in his second year for Green Bay, coming off last year's record of 9-7 as the Packers just missed the playoffs. And Holmgren becoming the third coach in the 74-year history of the organization to have a winning season. So a big year by Holmgren last year in his debut, and looking for the ultimate playoff berth this year. And a very poor punt as Tim Brown has to come up to the 25, never even got a shot at it, and it's out of bounds at the 26, so not a good punt at all by Brian Wagner. Well, New Year's Day, don't miss Championship Saturday, when we'll be here to bring you an entire day of college football action, beginning at 1 Eastern time. The IBM OS2 Fiesta Bowl kicks things off with number 10 Miami taking on 16th ranked Arizona, the number 4 Notre Dame, and Texas A&M in the Mobile Cotton Bowl. Finally, the national championship game. Nebraska takes on second ranked Florida State in the Federal Express Orange Bowl. Championship Saturday beginning at 1 Eastern time. Don't miss it.
I think Wagner's punt, that was caused for the fact he was trying to sideline kick. Those are very hard to do, Dan, and he got it off the side of his foot.
So the Raiders begin at the 25, and this is Nick Bell, who gets 4 yards up to the 29-yard line. The 17 yards rushing last week by the Raiders, their lowest output since moving to Los Angeles 12 years ago, a season low, so the rushing attack really hit rock bottom.
A little draw play here, and you see a good pursuit by all the Packers getting to the ball. Going back to that punt, Dan, I always was much in favor of a pooch punt in the middle of the field where you don't get those sideline kicks like that and get them out of bounds. Those are very hard to execute, particularly on a day like this. I'd rather see a pooch punt in the middle of the field and drop it down on the 10-yard line or inside the 20 in the middle of the field. Don't try and get it to the sideline.
Hostetler needs 7 on second down. Tim Brown will be short at the 36. And Tim Brown is brought down by the nose tackle, John Yurkovic.
Reggie White is going to get doubled all day long. Now watch the way they pick on him here. Everybody recognizing where he is. Look, 2 guys picking out Reggie. I was talking to Johnny Holland. He says, hey, I love that. I'm making all the plays at linebacker because they're killing Reggie White. They got 2 and 3 people on him. He sees that all year long, having that kind of a reputation. That's a tough job, and I know Reggie's a little frustrated by not getting the sacks and the things he's accustomed to.
Third down, less than a yard, and we get our first look at Napoleon McCallum, who picks up the first down for the Raiders. And Napoleon McCallum back for the 2nd game since an appendectomy a month ago.
Yeah, you talked about a guy. This is a heck of a run because actually Green Bay has good pressure in the backfield. But this is a heck of a run by Napoleon. We were talking to him and said, you know, that's kind of unusual, isn't it, to play 3 weeks after an appendectomy. And he said, well, the doctor just kind of separated everything in there. He didn't cut it all, and said, then he stapled it back. And I went, what? Stapled it? He goes, yeah, I just stapled it, just like you staple a piece of paper. And says once he got the staples out, he felt great.
Well, the end of the first quarter, and you might imagine with the wind chill factor at -18, not a lot of offense. The Raiders and Packers scoreless.
Right now, you can make a decision that can save your company hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars.
More than 1 million small businesses already have. It's the corporate card from American Express. It says you do things professionally right from the start. Use it for all your business expenses, like your company's gas and auto repairs. We'll report them by category so they're easy to track. And we'll even provide records of charges to make tax time easier.
And it's so easy to apply. Call 1-800-SUCCESS. Just answer some quick questions and they'll start processing your application immediately.
As your company grows, every card member can share benefits like accident disability insurance, savings on hotels and car leasing. So keep on doing what you do best and let the corporate card do the rest.
Call right now. Just say you want the corporate card.
That's 1-800-SUCCESS, the corporate card to your success.
Did you reserve the car with Hertz?
Not exactly, but it's a good deal.
Are they as fast as Hertz?
Not exactly, but what's the rush? We're on vacation!
Dad, are we lost? Hertz gives you computerized directions.
Honey, this is not exactly Hertz, okay?
I hope they have the same emergency road service as Hertz.
Not exactly.
In Rent-A-Car, there's Hertz, and there's Not Exactly. Make sure you choose the right one.
Are you sure this is the way to the hotel?
Not exactly.
Did you hear that?
The Chiefs, the Seahawks, Montana meets Meyer when 2 former Notre Dame greats go head-to-head as AFC West leading KC fights for the postseason home field edge. Then the Broncos, the Raiders, Elway and Hostetler square off in a battle with playoff implications. An NFL doubleheader next Sunday on NBC.
And a quick look at the first quarter statistics. Pretty even, Joe Gibbs.
Yeah, well, it's even in that nobody's doing anything so far. The defenses are dominating.
Raiders will try to take advantage of this field position. They're at the 38-yard line. Hostetler just throwing it up for James Jett. And Jett really didn't have a shot at it as Tony Bennett was providing the pressure on Brett Favre.
Actually, what we saw here was a shift right before the snap of the ball, and Reggie White, in this case, and they do move Reggie all over the place, a late shift and put him right over the center. And if we take a look at Reggie, right in this position right here over the center, he shifted in late. He came in that position. They cover both guards, trying to get pressure with him going up the middle. So that's an example of moving Reggie White all over the place to try and keep him from getting doubled, Dan.
And the incompletion bringing up 2nd down and 10. Hostetler with time this time, and he's got James Jett, and Jett with the 1st down into Packer territory, close to the 45-yard line. Wayne Simmons along with Roland Mitchell on the stop for Green Bay.
Hostetler has definitely been brought along the right way. When you play in New York with the Giants, this guy's had a lot of practice in bad weather. This is simply just a little curl route. Both receivers turn it inside, very effective on zone. And that's what the Packers were caught in there. But Hostetler, I've been up to New York with 50-mile-an-hour winds in our face. This guy is practicing it year in and year out. I had quarterbacks like Joe Theismann. They're just good in bad weather. This is one of the quarterbacks that's good in bad weather right here. Jeff Hostetler.
And they'll keep it on the ground, and this time it is Tyrone Montgomery getting his 1st carry of the game. And we talked to Art Shell last night, and he said we'd see more of the undrafted free agent from Ole Miss, and Montgomery picks up a couple, and Johnny Holland on the stop for Green Bay.
Talked to Johnny Holland for a long time yesterday, and he was the one telling us that that's a heck of a play there. He said, I love the fact that Reggie White's up there in front of me. He gets so much attention, and he keeps everything off of me. And he actually had 17 tackles 2 weeks ago.
A career high for Johnny Holland, who leads the team with a total of 119, 2nd down and 8.
There's Reggie White shifting back to the nose man again.
And a pass by Hostetler is intercepted. George Teague with some running room on the far side. And finally brought down by the Raiders at the 42. Reggie White provided the pressure, and the rookie out of Alabama picks off Jeff Hostetler, and Hostetler's 1st interception in 4 games.
Here's the interception again, but the guy that causes that is that same defense where they shifted Reggie White late over the nose man and then blitzed with him. And Reggie came up the middle and put the pressure on Hostetler, and I think caused that interception, Dan.
The 1st career interception for George Teague.
Here you see Reggie going right up the middle. You see him making contact on the quarterback. And I think the fact they combined that with the blitz this time made it tough for the Raiders to pick up.
And a nifty 21-yard interception return for the rookie out of Alabama. This is Darrell Thompson, and he is nowhere and probably lost a yard. Anthony Smith, the 4th-year former #1 pick out of Arizona, brings him down for the loss.
Now, we had showed Reggie shifting in there on a previous play and showed you with him lined up right over the center. That's what happens when you can't double Reggie White right there. It was a late shift. They couldn't get 2 guys on him. That's why everybody tries to double him. He's the best in the league at overpower. This guy weighs 295 pounds and runs 4.6. I've seen him pick off balls and come running by me on the sideline against us, and I said, man, our backs can't run that fast.
Well, he says, Joe, that he's playing better now than even in his 21-sack year back in 1987. Favre on the run and dragged down by Howie Long. The 6th sack of the season for the 13-year veteran out of Villanova.
Well, Reggie White makes a play. Howie Long comes back and makes a play. We're seeing 2 of the premier linemen in the league, and you're seeing them go after it here today, and the defenses are dominating so far.
That is the 84th sack of Howie Long's career, and that is 5th among active players.
This guy gets off the ball so fast, Dan. Sometimes we think he's offsides when you're standing on the sidelines. You complain to the referees. You get the film out, and he's right on the ball.
So all of a sudden, 3rd down and 19. The ball squarely at midfield. Favre with a quick chance across the middle looking for Robert Brooks. That is incomplete. And the boos cascading here at Lambeau Field as the Pack will punt it away on 4th and 19.
You don't like to see, if you're Mike Holmgren, the fact that Green Bay has had several good field position chances here and have not done anything with it. You don't like to see that.
So Brian Wagner will punt away for the 4th time. Tim Brown, hands in the hand warmer, waiting at the 15. And an excellent punt by Wagner. Brown calling for the fair catch at the 11. So Los Angeles will begin there when we come back. Scoreless, 11:47 left in the first half.
Cold filtered Miller Genuine Draft. For those who've discovered its smooth draft taste, the world is a very cool place.
You're looking at the most powerful import pickup ever built. The new 4-liter V6 Mazda truck. What all the beautiful people are driving this year.
The Chic ST with the one-push cleaning bar gives men a closer shave than the 3 leading disposables. And men say it delivers a safer shave than the 3 leading disposables. So, for a better overall shave than the 3 leading disposables, pick the ST from Chic. We're changing the face of shaving.
Behind every new Mazda truck is an unsurpassed 50,000-mile, 3-year basic warranty. And behind that, who knows?
Well, the playoff picture in the AFC, the Los Angeles Raiders at 9-5 are in the playoffs if they win their final 2 games. They don't even want to think about what could happen if they lose one of their final 2 games, because their conference record is not very good at 6-5. Meanwhile, the Green Bay Packers in the NFC are still alive for the Central Division title. Green Bay, if they win their last 2, they will win the NFC Central. They can also gain a playoff berth today with a win and some help. And it's amazing, Joe Gibbs, how those palm trees just sprout up in this weather at Lambeau Field.
Yeah, how do they do that?
Fumble by Nick Bell. And it appears the Raiders recovered.
I don't think Bell really got the ball there on the exchange. It was a bad exchange. I tell you what, that is dangerous right there. A turnover on the 10. That could be big.
It looked like the tight end, Ethan Horton, recovered the fumble by Bell.
Yeah, he actually had the ball. Good pocket there. It just is great camera work. We see the ball just kind of squirt out when he got to the line of scrimmage.
Well, no loss on the play, and that'll bring up 2nd down and 10. The ball at the 12-yard line. Scoreless game, 11 minutes left in the first half. Hostetler's pass complete to Nick Bell. No, they're saying it was incomplete. And Bell was really popped by George Teague, who just a moment ago picked up an interception.
You get a feeling in talking to the Raiders, Dan, that as we look at the replay here, that they feel like that the league somehow gets them in cold weather about this time of year every year. And certainly we think back to the Pittsburgh games with the Raiders and when John Madden was there and games like that. So there is a little bit of a tradition of that. And I was talking to Al Davis, and he goes, it's not fair. He says, I don't think it's fair that we wind up in some of these places at the end of the year every year. And what's really tough for them is coming west coast to the east. They're actually playing at 10 o'clock their time.
3rd and 10. Hostetler pressured, and he'll go down by John Yurkovich. The 4th sack of the year by the 2nd-year man out of Eastern Illinois, a man that was undrafted and is having a spectacular season. And the Haas gave him a little ride.
Yeah, you see the pressure here, and again, up inside is where they're getting pressure on Hostetler. Now I'm telling you that Green Bay needs to take advantage of this field position. Chance are going to get the ball again here. They're passing up a lot of opportunities in the first half.
Jeff Gossett from 5 yards deep in his end zone. hangs one Mike Pryor's way, and he'll begin at the 44, and an excellent return all the way up to about the 33. So an 11-yard punt return, and the Raiders indicating that they have the football.
I think they're saying it was a fumble at the end of that play. It was very hard to see, but all the players certainly think it is.
Joe Kelly emerged from the pile with a football. With a 37-yard punt by Gossett.
We have a huddle by the referees this time.
And now the Raiders have the football.
The ball is ruled a fumble, recovered by Los Angeles.
So indeed a fumble by Mike Pryor, and the Raiders have it in pretty good field position at the 34.
What a turn of events here. We'll take a look and see if we can see the ball come out. It's really hard to see from this angle.
Indeed, the ball popped loose from Mike Pryor, so the Raiders with another chance when we come back.
Trucks are a spiritual thing to me. Something you can depend on. It's just like, you know, my best friend, I guess you might say.
Out on the ranch is where I'm at, and that's where I want the truck to work for me.
I need a truck that's rough like I am.
Introducing the all-new Mazda truck with a 4-liter V6 and a soul to match. The new Mazda truck.
Saddle up and let's go dancing.
Mazda, it just feels right.
Oh, we dreamed about a vacation in Hawaii for 12 years. Then we get there and disaster strikes. We're all stuck in our room with diarrhea. So I bought Imodium AD. I heard it worked better.
Original prescription-strength Imodium AD stops diarrhea, often with one dose, instead of dose after dose of the pink stuff.
With just one dose, our diarrhea was gone, and so were we, out having the time of our lives.
Imodium AD, the original prescription for one-dose relief.
The water on the left is being heated by electricity. On the right, by gas. For the cost of heating this much water with electricity, we'd like to show you how much more you can get with gas. And if your neighborhood doesn't have natural gas, you can still heat for less than electricity with propane gas. So no matter where you live, why settle for the water on the left when gas gives you all that hot water on the right? Gas, America's best energy value.
The NFL on NBC is brought to you by Starter, authentic apparel and headwear of the NFL. By Mazda, it just feels right. By McDonald's, what you want is what you get at McDonald's today. And by cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft. Get out of the old, get into the cold.
Well, let's take another look, and it turns out that the hit was made by Dan Turk, number 67 on Mike Pryor.
And you can actually see him laying on the ground, and all of a sudden he turns around and the ball's there. It's a Christmas present.
Yeah, the local boy, Dan Turk, in his 9th year out of Wisconsin. The 4th-round pick of the Steelers back in 1985, as Nick Bell gets the carry on 1st and 10 for Los Angeles.
Still not making much rushing, but, you know, we were talking to Art Shell, and we said, Art, what did you do about Christmas? He said, hey, look, we're going to get our Christmas presents today, meaning today in this game. I think they just got one, by the way. But he said, hey, in a football player and coach's life, there's not a lot of room for Christmas. You're traveling. And but he said, hey, I sold our guys on the fact, hey, we get our Christmas present today, a victory over Green Bay.
He also told us that he feels the Raiders had better preparation for this cold weather weekend because they were able to get some good practices in the balmy weather. And Hostetler trying to call a timeout before the play clock expired, but he is very frustrated. He's been frustrated about the move from 45 seconds to 40 all year long.
We've been talking about that, Dan, and we said it hurts the offense, and he verified that last night, and he said, I don't have time to audible.
People around Flat Rock, Michigan have a lot of reasons to be proud, one of which is building the Mazda 626. Because even with dual airbags and a V6 engine, it still costs less than a 4-cylinder Camry LE. 6 cylinders that cost less than 4? People in Flat Rock think that's a powerful argument for the 626. And so do we. Mazda, it just feels right.
These days, people who want to save money on lunch are brown bagging it, because McDonald's original hamburger is still just 59 cents. Our delicious cheeseburger is 69 cents. And that is no baloney. Now McDonald's always has one extra value meal for $2.99. Might be this one, this one, this one, or to find out which extra value meal is $2.99, go to your local McDonald's. Because if you want to know, you gotta go. Come on, no food fights.
Now, to each man who shaves, there's an edge all his own. Only Edge Gel has 8 custom formulas to fit every shaving need. From tough beards to sensitive skin. For a close, comfortable shave, get an edge of your own. Edge Gel, skincare for men. Ultimate closeness, ultimate comfort. That's the Edge.
On a special sea quest, a face-off with undersea pirates.
Delta Force settling into an attack position.
With one way out.
Fire.
A 2-hour sea quest, 7/6 Central NBC tonight.
Now, what we're seeing here is that shift again by Reggie White going inside that we talked about. Hostetler now wants to audible, but the clock is run down, and he said that's one of the things that's killing them, is with the 40-second clock, and we talked about that all year. I think it's hurt the offenses.
Hostetler was able to get the timeout just before the play clock expired. He was looking for Ethan Thornton, and an excellent defensive play by Leroy Butler, the strong safety for Green Bay. And the 4th-year player out of Florida State.
As we take a look at the route, the strong safeties many times in man-to-man coverage with the Raiders play a lot in their contrasting style of play. A lot of times they're man-to-man. The strong safety, in this case, Leroy Butler, will normally be assigned to tight end. He did a heck of a job there. And that ball was not crisply thrown, I don't think, either by Hostetler in that case, and allowed him to slap the ball down.
Those 6 interceptions for Butler, second in the NFC, trailing Deion Sanders of Atlanta. 3rd down and 9. Hostetler looking to go to the air, wobbling right in and out of the hands of Butler, who had an excellent shot at interception number 7. But Hostetler feeling the heat once again from the Packer defensive front. Jurkovic putting the pressure on Hostetler.
Yeah, we take a look at this ball. Again, the pressure inside is what's causing Hostetler to throw off balance here. You can see he didn't get everything on that, Dan. That thing came down like a punt. I guess that's the reason why secondary guys play secondary. They don't have great hands in that case. That's what we always said. They're fast. They can do all those things. They can't catch the ball as receivers, so let's put them as DBs.
So once again, Art Shell's offense forced to punt. Gossett to put it in the air for the 5th time. This is a low line driver. And Mike Pryor all the way to the far side of the field watches it go out of bounds close to the 20. So Green Bay will have another chance on offense when we come back. Scoreless, 9 minutes left.
Then you flip the hat. You're late and you got the wrong hat. Sit in the corner.
No respect at all.
Then you raise the hat.
Hey, this thing's still alive.
Wrong hat. Then you slam the hat. Then you spin the hat.
Oh, I need landing instructions.
Wrong hat. Then you smooth the hat.
Take it easy, will you? I think I'm having a hat attack.
You need the right hat.
Insurance starter hat. Now I'll get some respect.
People around Flat Rock, Michigan feel more secure driving the Mazda 626. They make them themselves, so they put dual airbags in every one of theirs. And every one of yours, too.
During the holidays, one of the great things about living out here is looking for the perfect tree. Sometimes when we find one, we just leave it. Season's greetings from our families to yours.
In Flat Rock, Michigan, they build the Mazda 626 so that even with its V6 engine, it still costs less than a 4-cylinder Camry LE. Around Flat Rock, they think that's a powerful argument for the 626. And so do we.
New Year's Year's Day is Championship Saturday on NBC as 10th-ranked Miami takes on Arizona in the IBM OS2 Fiesta Bowl. Then number 4 Notre Dame battles number 7 Texas A&M in the Mobile Cotton Bowl, followed by a primetime showdown for the national championship as number 1 Nebraska faces Heisman winner Charlie Ward and number 2 Florida State in the Federal Express Orange Bowl, New Year's Day.
Well, somewhere in the vicinity of all the winter clothing there on the Packers sidelines is a heater. There it is. We just saw the flames flickering out from underneath there, Joe. We could use one up here in the booth.
Yes, we could.
Packers 1st and 10, just shy of the 20, and Favre will go down. The sack made by Nolan Harrison. And for Nolan Harrison, his 3rd sack of the season.
Dan, we brought a football team up here. It was one of the coldest days I've ever been in. Doug Williams was our quarterback. He'd never been any place but Louisiana, Tampa, and Phoenix in his career. We brought him up here, and luckily he was our backup quarterback. It would have taken a crowbar to get him off that heater. He was over there all day, and I said, man, if that guy's got to play, we're in trouble. Thank goodness Jay Schrader played, and we did win the game 10-7.
Loss of 5 on the sack by Nolan Harrison. 2nd and 15, 5 to the air. And he's got Sterling Sharp. Sterling Sharp looking for the first down marker. He'll be shy of it. And that'll bring up 3rd down and 1. Derek Hoskins, the strong safety, made the stop.
You get the feeling the farther we go, the quarterbacks are going to be the key here because neither team's run the ball very well. This is that little stop route on the outside. Good timing by Favre in this case with Sharp and bangs it there. It's hard to stop if you're in zone. We've seen both teams use it today.
Sterling Sharp, we mentioned, and saw the historic catch. Another milestone added to his resume as he's now extended the Packer record 86 straight games with a reception. They were trying to go to him again, and Sterling Sharp did not like the coverage applied by Joe Kelly of the Raiders. And that will bring up 4th down and another punt.
Very short yardage. Back to both teams having a tough time on 3rd down and 1 and 2s in this case. Yeah, I would have complained about this too. They're holding him. They actually tackle him before the ball get there. I can't believe that we missed that.
Actually, it was Winston Moss that was all over the back of Sterling Sharp. And once again, Wagner, this time from the 15. This is becoming a familiar scene. Line drive punt. Tim Brown from the 29. And Brown will get up to the 33. A 4-yard return by Tim Brown and a 44-yard punt by Wagner. Well, next Sunday, NBC Sports presents the final weekend of the regular season. Doubleheader action beginning at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, NFL Live, and then most of you will see an AFC West matchup between the Seahawks and the Chiefs, or regional action. And in the second half of the doubleheader, most of you will see these Los Angeles Raiders battle the Denver Broncos, or regional actions. Check your local listings for the game and time in your area.
I told that little story about Doug Williams being so cold the first time up here. It's amazing the way players adjust to that, Dan, over a period of time. He came back and played some great games in cold weather later on.
Raiders from the 32. Hostetler just throwing it away. Napoleon McCallum was the original intended target, but Hostetler clearly just throwing that away. And once again, Reggie White in on the pressure of Hostetler.
Well, actually, I think you're going to see Reggie start up field. Now, this time he was playing on the outside, but you see him again double, this time by a lineman and also a back. Reggie still kind of winds up pressuring Hostetler. And there's the new rule, Dan, where the quarterback, and I think it's a good one, when he's outside the pocket like that, in that case, to protect himself, he can simply throw the ball away without worrying about a penalty.
2nd down and 10, ball at the 32. As you see, Hostetler hurried already 5 times today by the Packer defensive line. Pump fake buys him some time, and Hostetler escapes for the moment, but Reggie White sacked him.
Both defenses are dominating, and we've seen both lines make excellent plays. Howie Long for the Raiders, and now Reggie White, his buddy, several times. Here's the pressure up the middle. The real good pass rusher is relentless. He never stops, and that's what you see there, Dan. The guys with that kind of heart that never know when to quit, those are the guys that eventually get sacks. You rarely get them on the first move.
11.5 sacks for Reggie White. He became the all-time NFL sack leader earlier this year versus the Chicago Bears. 3rd and 19 for the Raiders. Hostetler trying to dump it over to the middle for Nick Bell, and that will bring up 4th down.
A little middle screen there was actually a very good call. I thought the Raiders would get called for holding there because they grabbed a couple of the Packer linemen in that case. But what's happening here without the rushing game by the Raiders, the Green Bay is really simply just rushing the passer and getting tremendous pressure on Hostetler. This is what happens when you don't get a good running game going. You see the screen was set up there fairly decently.
I'll tell you, there's no doubt why they're paying Reggie White $4.25 million a year. We're getting a good indication of that today in minus 18-degree wind chill as Mike Pryor escapes one Raider, and he'll go back across the field for a gain of maybe 1 on the return. 45-yard punt by the Raiders. Coming up on the Domino's Pizza NFL Live halftime report, Mike Ditka and Jim Lampley back in the
warm studio.
Toasty warm NFL studios, bringing up to date on all the action that is underway, plus a bowl day preview of all the great college football matchups here on NBC on New Year's Day.
We've talked about Reggie White. He not only brings the play on the field, Dan, but he brings, every time you talk to a player, he talks about his leadership in the locker room. That's something that's very important to a football team, and he certainly gives that to you.
Here are the Packers on the ground. Edgar Bennett gets the first down carry, and by the looks of things, Joe, unless somebody like a Sterling Sharp or one of the speedy receivers for the Raiders gets away, it's shaping up into a scoreless first half.
Yeah, I think what's happened here, both teams having a tough time moving the football. It makes them one-dimensional. Both these defenses, of course, are playing extremely well. The weather's also hurt the offenses, but without them rushing the football, either offense, we're getting into a defensive battle here. Somebody's going to make a big play here at some point.
First time that those two coaches have squared off. Holmgren and Art Shell. Brett Favre to the air, and he's got Edgar Bennett, and Bennett, I believe, picked up the first down all the way up to the 43. So something for the 59,000 here at Lambeau Field to cheer about, finally.
Really what happens here is just really a flat route with the downfield receivers clearing things out. Green Bay's had success several times just hitting a guy right along the line of scrimmage, a back along the line of scrimmage as the receivers clear everything out to the outside. It's a simple little pass, but they've hit it several times today. Favre's done a good job of finding his back there, his secondary receiver.
Brett Favre trying to become the second Packer in history to post 2 3,000-yard passing seasons. You saw the numbers there. He came into the game just about 77 yards shy of the 3,000-yard mark. And if he gets that 77-yard total, he will become just the second Packer in history to do it. Lynn Dickey did it 3 times for Green Bay.
You get the feeling in talking to Mike Holmgren that he says that this guy's a little bit of a gunslinger. He says he takes some chances because he's got such a great arm, and if they can get him where he doesn't throw the interceptions and just uses all that natural talent, and of course that comes with just growing up a little bit. This guy's really only played 2 years. That's the other thing.
And they'll keep it on the ground. Darrell Thompson, and pretty much stopped for no gain. And you saw the draft picks quarterback-wise ahead of Brett Favre.
But that happens all the times with quarterbacks, Dan. You know, we see Joe Montana is the 3rd-round draft choice. Joe Theismann, quarterback that kind of kept me in a job for about 6 years, a 3rd-round quarterback. Some of these guys are drafted farther down, and we kind of made a history there with Washington of doing that. A 5th-rounder, Mark Rippon. Because it's hard to evaluate these guys in a pro atmosphere. You get them up here, you work with them over a period of time, and they mature and blossom.
3rd down and 9 for Favre, looking for Sterling Sharp, and a nice defensive play by Terry McDaniel. McDaniel coming off his first Pro Bowl last year, swatted that one away and forces the Packers to punt again. Terry McDaniel, the former #1 pick out of Tennessee, with a nice play.
Yeah, this is a good play on just a little simple slant route to the inside. What Favre was trying to do is to get the ball to him quick and let him run for it. the two things that you like to see in a quarterback when you talk to Mike Holmgren is what Favre has: toughness and smarts. That's what he's got. He also has a great arm. Really, this guy will blossom. It's going to just take time.
This game is quickly turned into a punting contest. Brian Wagner against Jeff Gossett. As you look at some of the other scores, the Bills ahead of the New York Jets 10-7. And we'll update the Chicago game. Detroit has taken a 10-7 lead. Jason Hansen's field goal has put the Lions up over the Bears. And, of course, the Packers here watching that score very, very closely, because if the Packers are able to win today and Detroit loses to Chicago, the Packers would be in the playoffs.
We've talked about some mentally tough football players. There's some mentally tough fans out here today. I want to tell you that, because I was out there for about 20 minutes shooting that little opening. I almost froze. I'm glad I'm up here where this thing's covered up. I like this better than being on the sideline.
1st and 10, Raiders from the 19, and a pass complete to the far side. This is the tight end, Ethan Horton. Actually, James Jett made the reception. And James Jett leads the NFL with more than 25 yards per catch. As you look at the numbers by Jett, who is the fastest of the wide receivers on the Raiders team, but really not the fastest of all on this Raiders team.
This thing is loaded. This team is loaded with great speed as outside receivers. When we talked about the Green Bay, what do you fear the most from the Raiders? The defensive players all said the speed of their outside receivers as they pick up the first down here. But that has been Al Davis's modus of operation from the very beginning. He loves speed on his outside receivers.
And there is a look at the speed. James Trapp is a cornerback, and he is the fastest, outdistancing all of those Raider wide receiver burners. The ball at the 29, 1st and 10 for the Raiders, trying to get something going on offense. Napoleon McCallum trying to turn the corner, and he won't get far at all. Tony Bennett chased him out of bounds along with Johnny Holland.
As we were talking to Alexander Wright, winning the fastest man contest and everything, you know, you get the feeling as we talk to him that this team is loaded with speed. We were joking with that. We had Darrell Green with Washington. He won the fastest man a couple of times. I was kidding with Don Mosbar. I says, you know, we ought to have a, for you guys, 300-pounders.
The center for the Raiders, Mosbar.
We ought to have a wide body fastest man contest.
2nd down and 9 over the middle. The pass complete to Tim Brown. And Brown will be short. That'll bring up 3rd down for the Raiders.
I was thinking the rules would be, Dan, you have to be over 300 pounds, a lineman, okay, and we would have them sprint only 30 yards, and we'd have somebody sponsor it like Winnebago or Boeing, wide bodies, you know what I mean? And Don Mosbar lit up on that. He says, yeah, we ought to, and I think the fans would like it. We ought to get a write-in going here. We would love to have that. Wide body, fastest man.
You can conduct it on one of your NASCAR tracks, Joe, that you spend so much time at. 3rd down and about 4. Hostetler under pressure again, and he will go down at the 31. Jurkovic was there along with Tony Bennett. Johnny Holland also provided the pressure on Hostetler.
Again, it's tremendous pressure on Hostetler. Here you can see the field comes into play. He slips a little bit, doesn't get the ball off on time, and when he misses that timing, and you can't get the ball off when you set back there at 7 steps, Dan, it gives that defense a chance for pressure, and they're getting tremendous pressure today. And again, I think they're concentrating on the pass rush. They know the Raiders are not really rushing the football.
And once again, Jeff Gossett's punt, a low line driver, fielded nicely by Pryor. Pryor across the 40, and Pryor gets it across midfield into Raider territory. And Jeff Gossett had to run him out of bounds at the 49. A 40-yard punt and a nice 21-yard return by Pryor.
Hey, we saw the kicker. He actually got dirty there. He had to make a hit, and he got dirty. I like that. This is a pretty good hold here, I'll tell you. And you can see that's a pretty good shot right there.
Yeah,
not bad. Here's our kicker. Let's take a look at his form here.
195 pounds.
Well,
shot
on second thought, from that angle, that was not exactly one of the best hits I've seen.
And the good thing, he gets to go back on the sidelines and throw on the coat and get by the heater. Meanwhile, the Packers at the 48. This is Darrell Thompson. Thompson picking up first down yardage. He's all the way down to the Raider 33. Harry Galbraith and Edgar Bennett with a couple of nice blocks to spring Thompson.
The first run that we've actually seen today by either team. And you see what happens here? It excites everybody, Dan. The fans, the crowd, the offensive linemen get excited when they're knocking people back and making yards. The physical part of the game is very important.
That was a 15-yard gain by Darrell Thompson. He has the team's longest run of the season, and that is 28 yards. Approaching the 2-minute warning of the first half. This is Darrell Thompson again. And he gets it up to the 30-yard line. But if the 28-yard run for the longest run of the year stands for Thompson, it would be the shortest, longest run in team history dating back to 1941.
This is Howie Long of the Los Angeles Raiders. Over the years, my teammates have brought you the stories of how the United Way tackles the tough problems that any of us might have to face in life. Back in 1985, I appeared in an NFL United Way spot with my wife Diane and our new son Christopher. My family has grown. These are my sons Kyle and Howie. We want the best for them, and we want the best for all children. That's why we are United Way volunteers, bringing the message of the dangers of drug and alcohol abuse to children even as young as 7 and 8. When you give to the United Way, you not only say that you care about children, but you're reaffirming your commitment to the idea that through the United Way, we can all be assured that our contributions are being spent wisely. Now, more than ever, the United Way, helping where help is needed the most.
This message furnished by the National Football League.
Well, welcome back to frigid Lambeau Field and scoreless game, but Joe Gibbs modeling the latest in cold weather gear here, Joe. I don't
This
think
can
this
go
is...
all the way up. I'm not really looking at the game anyway, but this is another version.
You mean the game isn't exactly the most exciting contest you've ever seen? A scoreless tie by Green Bay and Los Angeles?
I'll tell you, actually, it is a good defensive battle. Somebody's going to make a big play here to win the game.
You got an extra one of these that I can borrow?
Yeah, we're going to give
all right.
it
Just a second.
Yeah.
We may not have time. And
I only got one right now.
Minus 18-degree wind chill factor. Joe, I got a feeling you're going to keep that on for the rest of the game. 2-minute warning at storied, frigid Lambeau Field. Third coldest game on record. And the near 60,000 fans here that have braved it bundled up. Mentioned not much offense at all. This is Green Bay's deepest penetration in a while at the 30-yard line. Complete to Sterling Sharp, and Sharp with another first down. He is inside the 20.
Again, that little stop route, and whenever Green Bay's been able to catch the Raiders in zone coverage, you see the Raiders backing up here and opening these holes. You can see the lane that Favre's throwing through. And what happens is the receivers just hooking those zone holes in there. Very effective. I would look for the Raiders now to go to man-to-man coverage to take that away.
Interesting to note, Sterling Sharp has attained all these milestones. He's had a turf toe and tendonitis and left Achilles. It's been an injury-plagued season for him, but nevertheless, he shows up every Sunday, but really hasn't practiced much at all in the past month and a half or so. And I noticed also is not wearing any long sleeves in this weather, Joe. In fact, his socks are down near his ankles.
The similarities between him and Art Monk are amazing. Art Monk played at Purdue and, of course, was used to cold weather. He come out to practice with nothing on. But you know, no underwear and sleeveless.
Well, a moment ago, I guess the socks were down. He's pulled them up. Now it is now.
Sterling also is a guy that's used to cold weather, I think, and they're mentally tough guys. And to tell you the truth, I used to like guys that we drafted from the cold weather climates because you know they were kind of battle tested. And particularly kickers. I thought that was always very important. Guys are used to big wind, bad weather. It gave them a little bit of an advantage, I think.
Well, there is Greg Townsend, the 11th year veteran. He's played in cold weather. Nolan Harrison, you saw him a moment ago, number 74, the right tackle.
Big plays right here for Green Bay. Big plays coming up.
2nd down and 9. 5 wants to go to the air, and he's got Sterling Sharp. Another 1st down. Sharp trying to fight his way into the end zone. And Sharp is inside the 1. 1st and goal for Green Bay.
That's the kind of play that Favre can give you, Dan. Now, he scrambled out of the pocket there and got pressure and got back outside and made a big play on the outside with his scrambling ability, and that's what Coach Holmgren told us. That's the kind of guy that he really needs and is used to working with.
Well, Sterling Sharp feels he got into the end zone.
Let's take a look at if we had instant replay. This would be something we could take a look at.
All you have to do is break the plane with the ball. Your body can even be outside there. Just put the ball over the goal line, and it's a touchdown. But this is Edgar Bennett, and he picks up the touchdown for Green Bay. The 8th touchdown of the season for Bennett. And the Packers finally put some points on the board at Lambeau Field.
We take a look at the goal line offense right here, and there's no doubt on this one on breaking the plane. He's all the way in there, 1.5 yards deep with the ball. And I think that they did it the right way there. The Packers, they ran the ball some. They took a couple of shots. It was a good little series there. And I know that they would have been sick to go into halftime with no points, considering the good field position they had several times. And that time they took advantage of it.
Excellent surge on the offensive line. Harry Galbraith, the unrestricted free agent from Miami, and Frank Winters, the center, who was taken over for the injured James Campen, also a part of the nice block which sprung Bennett. Chris Jackie's point after attempt is good, and Green Bay, with 1 minute and 1 second left in the first half, has taken a 7-0 lead. Packers trying to get into the playoffs in a non-strike season for the first time in 21 years, and Brett Favre says we finally got some points.
He likes it. It was a big play that he made by getting out of the pocket there, Dan. That was a broken play. Again, we've looked at quarterbacks today, and we said their biggest plays come when things blow up in their face. In that case, pressure up the middle. He scrambles out of the pocket, makes a big play out of something that could be a disaster. And that's what your quarterbacks do for you. Their biggest plays many times come when things are not smooth. Something goes wrong, and they take something that's going wrong and make something positive out of it. Your good quarterbacks have the ability to do that. Everybody can go back when everything's perfect and hit guys that are open. You need a guy that's the playmakers can make a play just like that, and I think that's what this young guy has.
Well, the big play was the 17-yard reception by Sterling Sharp, which got it inside the 1, and on the following play, Edgar Bennett's 1-yard run capped off a 6-play scoring drive. 1:37, and it totaled 48 yards. So we'll have a kick other than a punt finally, as Chris Jackie just sends in a line drive to the 30-yard line. So with less than a minute left, the Raiders may have a chance to get into field goal position. As we look at the rest of the scores around the league, the Bills up, and the Lions at halftime now up 10-7 over Chicago.
Dan, what I think Green Bay was thinking there, they decided just to power kick that on the ground. They didn't want to run the risk with all the speed that the Raiders have of getting a big run back against them. But what they did in this case is put the Raiders in position to maybe have a shot at a field goal here with the last 57 seconds left.
Hostetler to Nick Bell. Bell fumbles the football, and the Packers have it. Doug Evans, the rookie out of Louisiana Tech, picks up the second fumble of the game by Nick Bell.
Yeah, I think Bell in this case has the ball squarely in his hands. For some reason, it just flat gets away from him. That ball right there is hard to hang on to. That thing is frozen and glazed over a little bit. It's hard to handle a ball like that. That's the reason why a lot of the players are wearing gloves.
And I noticed there that Nick Bell does not have any gloves on, did not have any gloves at the time of that fumble, and now he heads to the sidelines, and Gerald Perry, the offensive lineman, consoling Nick Bell, who has given the Packers another chance here. The ball spotted at the 43, less than a minute left. Second turnover by the Raiders today. Favre swings it out, and this is Edgar Bennett, and Bennett all the way inside the 30. They're going to mark him at the 26.
And I'm not sure he wouldn't have gone a lot farther. The field frozen in that area right there, and you see him lose his footing in that frozen part of the field right there. That could have been even a bigger play. Take a look at this little screen. See the fullback set up underneath like he's going to pass block. It then slides out. It's an under screen. We've seen the Packers try and use it several times today, and you can see the loose footing there on the outside, a frozen part of the field. Probably cost, in this case, the Packers a chance to get way down inside the 20-yard line.
Well, the Packers have called a timeout. They have one left, and we'll remind you that at halftime we'll join Mike Ditka and Jim Lampley in our NFL Live, the NFL Live Domino's Pizza halftime report.
Here's a case where you see the offensive coordinator is Mike Holmgren, the head coach. You see him there trying to make up his mind what he's going to call. Very much like a Bill Walsh, or in my case, when I was calling the plays, you got people upstairs helping you, but it goes back on this guy's shoulders right here.
And is that
that's a tough job.
A little frost on Holmgren's mustache?
I think it is.
Well, we've just been told by our producer slash weatherman, Terry Ewert, that the temperature is now -9 degrees, wind chill factor 2 degrees as a flag is thrown. And I would imagine if I'm Chris Jackie, the Packers field goal kicker, I'd want to get it in as close as possible on a day that you might not even be able to feel your foot, no matter how close you get to that heater.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also the holes, Dan, the snap and the holes, very tough on a day like this.
Encroachment, defense, 5 yards.
It was big Chester McLaughlin who picks up the encroachment penalty for the Raiders.
Now let's take a look and see if anybody on the offense moves. If they do, you see him move, the center step out. That should have been on the offense.
That was
you can't do that.
Frank Winters reaching across the line and tapping Chester McLaughlin on top of the helmet. Favre's pass looking for Sharp. Incomplete.
Very ill-advised right there. That in this position right here, Favre should be looking for a field goal. Don't take a chance like that with a guy double covered and throw that ball up. That was dangerous. By the way, Dan, I don't think I've ever seen a center do that. Reach across and touch a guy. If I was the Raiders, I'd be upset on that deal.
Well, we want to clarify the weather situation. +2 degrees, -9 wind chill factor, as if we could tell.
Oh, +2. That is a big difference.
It's a big difference when it goes minus plus. I mean, you can really tell. Second down and 5 for the Packers. And unable to handle Brett Favre's dump is Edgar Bennett. And that will bring up third down.
Both teams doing a very good job of getting pressure. In this case, the Raiders have also had a lot of success right up the middle. In this case, bouncing Brett back on the ground. And this will be a big play right here, third down and 5. See if they can pick up a first down here with 31 seconds left on the clock.
There is Chris Jackie warming up on the sidelines. 31 seconds left in the first half. Green Bay already up 7-0, trying to add to that lead as Darrell Thompson gets inside the 20, close to the first down, but that will bring up fourth down for Green Bay.
Well, the fans are booing. They don't like the idea that they went with a run, but what they tried to do there is kind of gamble a little bit, catch the Raiders walked off with 4 wide receivers and just pump that thing up inside for a first down. It was a good call. It's just that the Raiders were sharp and made a good play on it.
And Green Bay will let the clock run down, probably stop it with 2 seconds left. And they do use their final time out of the first half, and gives Chris Jackie even more time to keep warming up the leg on the sideline. So,
Dan, what you'd like to see, I would, as a coach on the sideline, I'd like to stop that clock at about 10 seconds or 9 seconds for this reason. If you get a bad snap or something, you can just tell your holder and you coach him just to go ahead and cover the ball up, and you would have another shot at a field goal. In this case, when you run it down to 2, it's just a very final one shot at a field goal.
And the high-tech ball holder on the sidelines enables Jackie to warm up without anybody even holding the football and get the feel of someone holding it.
That's a cobra.
That's probably frozen into the turf by now, that metal holder. Okay, they'll spot Jackie at the 27-yard line. It'll be a 37-yard attempt. And Chris Jackie has at least one field goal in 10 straight games. Thought that streak might be in danger, and it still might be. 37-yarder tough in weather like this.
It's tough snapping. It's tough holding. It's very tough to get a good plant foot on that frozen turf right here. That's a big deal right in this area. And the Raiders call a timeout there to try and put a little pressure on it.
Yes, the Raiders calling timeout to ice Chris Jackie as if he needs to be iced anymore. Look at the holder, Wagner, doing some calisthenics out there. Actually, that's Chris Jackie doing the calisthenics out there. Mike Holmgren in his second year has a 7-0 lead over the Los Angeles Raiders. And talking about those shoes, Joe Gibbs.
That looks like a 1909 version that he's kicking with.
Looks like Jackie's borrowed one of Johnny Unitas's old black cleats.
We were talking about the different shoes. My bet is that right here, Chris Jackie's got on that little small cleated shoe that helps on the frozen surfaces.
Wagner, the hold is good. Chris Jackie's kick is no good. So as the gun sounds to end the first half, Chris Jackie unsuccessful from 37 yards out. Let's take another look at the hold by Wagner.
Actually did a pretty good job. The snap was a little low. We talked about that. That's no piece of cake, Dan. It's a hard to snap, hard to get a hold, hard to get a good kick. And in this case, Green Bay misses it.
Chris Jackie having his best season ever, but unable to connect there. Green Bay with a 7-0 lead over the Los Angeles Raiders at halftime. Let's send you back to New York, NFL Live Studios, and Jim Lampley.
This is the Domino's Pizza NFL Live Halftime Report, brought to you by Domino's Pizza, where you always get great pizza, plus something for nothing.
We welcome those of you who are experiencing the vicarious chills of watching the game in Lambeau Field between the Raiders and the Pack. We'll warm you up now with a look at what's happening in the early part of the NFL day, beginning in equally cold Orchard Park, where the Buffalo Bills lead the New York Jets 13-7 at halftime in yet another frozen game. Game time temperature at Rich Stadium, 7 degrees, wind chill factor -33. The weather didn't deter the Bills on their first drive. Jim Kelly with a screen pass to the invaluable backup running back Kenneth Davis, who takes it 28 yards down to the Jets' 2-yard line. That sets up a controversial touchdown. Next play, Thurman Thomas will take the football in for what is ruled a touchdown. But as you'll see on this replay, Thomas is juggling the football pretty clearly before he reaches the goal line. Ball went out of the end zone. Jets players signaled touchback, and officials stepped in and ruled no. Touchdown, 7-0 Bills. The Jets have had trouble scoring touchdowns of their own of late, but here this breaks a drought. Boomer Esiason hitting Johnny Johnson on a 24-yard scoring play. Boomer's first TD pass since November 14 against the Colts. That made it 7-7. Since that time, 2 field goals for the Bills make it 13-7. Both passers playing pretty well and completing a high percentage of their passes in that brutal cold.
Well, I'll tell you, these guys don't feel the cold. I played in cold weather years ago, 1963, 64 in Chicago. Never even wore long johns or long underwear. I mean, you just don't feel it. Your adrenaline's pumping. These guys are playing for their lives right now. One guy's trying to get in the playoffs, which are the Jets. The other guy's trying to control their destiny by getting home field advantage. That's all they're thinking about. They're not worried about the cold, the fans, anything else. They're worried about playing the best football they can. That's all that's on their mind.
You wore no long underwear in the 63 championship game against the Giants.
We were very much macho men in those days.
Not that you are now, of course. Meanwhile, in Soldier Field today, the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears, 2 of the teams in that 4-team brawl in the NFC Central, are in the third quarter already, with the Lions leading the Bears 10-7. And the game that you are watching, as you well know, Edgar Bennett's one-yard touchdown is the difference so far as the Green Bay Packers lead the Raiders 7-0. Another brilliant day, 4 catches already for Sterling Sharp.
Well, I can't say enough about him because he keeps doing it under pressure, Jim. He's going to be double-teamed most of the time. If they don't double-team, if they find a way to isolate him one-on-one, he's going to beat that guy. That's all there is to it. This guy, to me, and you got to put him in the class with all the great receivers in the league. And I know everybody will talk about Rice, and he's great. Michael Irvin, they're all great. This guy over here gets more double coverage than anybody I've seen because I coached against them. I know what we try to do. You try to take him out of the game plan, and he still beats you.
Yeah, of all the great wideouts, he's the most macho one, right?
He probably doesn't have long underwear on today either.
New Orleans against Philadelphia. Philadelphia must win to stay in the playoff hunt. Not so New Orleans, and it's 18-12 Eagles at halftime. Bubby Brister has 2 touchdown passes there. Atlanta must win in Cincinnati to stay alive, but the Bengals with David Klingler throwing 2 touchdown passes lead 14-7. Klingler entered the game with only 3 to this point in the season. And in Foxborough, the New England Patriots have produced their most explosive half of the season. They led 17-0 at halftime against Indianapolis. Game now into the 3rd quarter. Bill Parcells and the Pats looking for a 3rd consecutive victory. It hasn't happened in New England since 1988. Opening drive, Leonard Russell rushed for 44 yards, capped it with this 2-yard TD. All in all, 13 carries for 96 yards in the 1st quarter for Russell. Here he gains 19 yards on a later play, putting him over 1,000 yards rushing for the season. First Patriot to do it since John Stevens in 88, but later Russell was forced to the sideline with a shoulder injury. We're told he will return. Now, closing seconds the first half, as you can see. First, Drew Bledsoe hits Ben Coates with this 28-yarder to take it down to the 1-yard line with 9 seconds left on the clock. Then a bit of a gamble. Play fake, throw on the back line of the end zone to the other tight end, Marv Cook. The touchdown that made it 17-0. Rick Meyer's gotten more attention, but Drew Bledsoe continues to work.
Progress, little by little, he's getting the job done. He's taking the coaching very well. He's taking 1 step at a time. He's got the offense under control, and he's doing a great job. The new cry going around the NFL, I can hear it coming out next week. Break up the Patriots. They're too powerful. Parcells has done too good a job.
Because if Miami doesn't take care of business tomorrow night against San Diego, they could go in and face a New England buzzsaw.
They will have their hands full in cold weather up in New England. There's no question about that.
Indeed. Coming up, we'll preview our New Year's Day Bowl lineup on NBC. That'll be next after these messages from your local station.
The worst defeat in football was Cumberland College lost to Georgia Tech 222-0. Imagine a losing coach at halftime. All right, we're not out of it yet. Only 110-0. Couple 2, 3, 16 more touchdowns, we're back in it. Tommy, you got to stop punting on first down. When you center the ball, you hike it backwards. Backwards, backwards, backwards. Meanwhile, in the other locker room, the coach is going, all right, who hasn't scored yet? Anybody? Kathy, grab your brother's helmet and you're going in.
Why should you join America's Pack?
Reason 25.
The tailgate parties. Party!
Reason 32.
The newsletters. Inside information.
Reason number 3.
Meet new people.
Make new friends.
Reason number 1, it's our year. The year of the fan with a new team and bright new hopes for the future.
Join the Pack. America's Pack. The official fan club of the Green Bay Packers. For more information, call this number.
Why is now the time to buy? Because the end of the year means the end of the deals at your Quality Plus Ford dealer. Only until the end of the year can you get America's #1 selling car, Ford Taurus, fully equipped including standard dual airbags, and save $1,200. Or get the best lease of the year. Or get America's #1 selling truck, Ford F-150, fully equipped including 24-hour roadside assistance, and save $1,700. Or get the lowest lease ever. All this before you make your best year-end deal. Hurry, you only have 5 days left because the end of the year means the end of the deals.
Season's greetings.
From all of us.
At WMTV.
This is the Domino's Pizza NFL Live Halftime Report. Brought to you by Domino's Pizza, where you always get great pizza, plus something for nothing.
Welcome back. 6 days from now, New Year's Day, the NFL steps aside. As college football settles its national championship, we'll bring you a full day of coverage. Championship Saturday begins on NBC at 1 p.m. with the Fiesta Bowl from Tempe, Arizona, number 10 Miami, number 16 Arizona. The Hurricanes, with 2 losses this season, are in the unfamiliar position of playing in a bowl game with no bearing on the national title.
I'm looking forward to going up if it's in their hometown. We go to their practice field and play the damn game. I don't care. I'm ready to play these guys. You know, they're the only guys that have come close to jeopardizing our Orange Bowl streak. We take that, you know, serious.
Next up at 4:30, the Cotton Bowl, 2 10-1 teams. Number 4 Notre Dame, number 7 Texas A&M, in a rematch of last season's game won by the Fighting Irish 28-3. Notre Dame was headed toward a national title game until last month's stunning upset by Boston College. Still, Lou Holtz says his team does have an outside shot at the championship.
There's so many teams that have a chance to win the national championship. Let me campaign for all of them. If Nebraska wins due to the fact they're undefeated, then I think they have to be national champions. If they lose and West Virginia wins, then I think you have to look at West Virginia very, very strongly. If we're fortunate enough to beat A&M, and if Florida State and the University of Florida win, then I think we'd be very fortunate to be national champs based on the fact that we beat Florida State near the end of the season in the head-to-head competition.
Finally, at 8 p.m., the Orange Bowl pits number 1 Florida State 11-1 against undefeated Nebraska. The Seminoles, led by Heisman Trophy winner Charlie Ward, finished the year ranked first in the nation in scoring offense and scoring defense. Nebraska coach Tom Osborne, in an underdog role, has a mailbox filled with suggestions and encouragement on how to beat Florida State and end the 6-game bowl losing streak.
This one guy said here, he said, ask your grandparents about the headline, Dewey defeats Truman. And unfortunately, I can personally remember that headline.
We simply have not won it. And so we'll be trying our best. But I guarantee you Nebraska will be also.
Our Mike Ditka will be spending all of New Year's Day right here with Hannah Storm. And Mike, the mixed blessing for Bowden and Osborne is that one, only one, fulfills that personal crusade for a national title.
Well, I love Lou Holtz, but I disagree. Nobody will win a national championship except Nebraska or Florida State. Whichever team wins the game will win it. I don't care what the score is now. Florida State's a 17-point favorites. Evidently, everybody thinks they're the number 1 team in the country, although they're number 2. So I can't figure why I didn't put them number 1, but eventually they'll try to get them to number 1. Everybody wants Bobby Bowden to win. Nice guy, great coach. I like him to win, too. I happen to like the guy in Nebraska, Tom Osborne. Takes his team to the Orange Bowl every year, plays in the Big 8, which is a pretty good conference, and he does it the old-fashioned way by hammering you. Now, if he can hammer the ball a little bit on New Year's night, he's got a good chance.
All right, let's hope for a close game. College football settling its national championship on New Year's Day. Stay with us now as NFL Live Halftime continues.
In the future, when the police are outgunned, outmanned, and outrun, there's one last hope. NBC next Sunday.
Eggman Motors' commitment to service excellence is stronger than ever, and the savings are incredible. The highly trained personnel in Eggman's new radiator shop can rebuild your broken-down radiator. And don't worry about the size. Eggman can handle it. Eggy on the Beltline leads the way with state-of-the-art machining facilities. Their flywheel resurfacing machine handles all types of heavy-duty flywheels, saving you big bucks during clutch repair. Service excellence. That's Eggman Motors, West Beltline, Madison, behind Zimbrick.
1 carat diamond, $59 a month at the Diamond Center.
Back at frigid Lambeau Field, and you might imagine not a lot of offense with a -9 wind chill factor. The Packers out in front of the Raiders at halftime by a score of 7-0. Dan Hicks and Joe Gibbs back here at our toasty warm booth. Sterling Sharp really provided the only offensive highlights of the first half. He came up with the historic 100th reception in the first quarter, becoming the first NFL player to ever post 2 100-catch seasons, and here it is.
Yeah, it was really just a fade route. The Raiders chose to play man-to-man coverage, which they did. And in this case, he gets by him on the fade. Later on, they started playing a lot of zone, and he was catching balls with just a simple hook route in front of him.
And later on, he came up with a big 17-yard reception, what set up the only touchdown of the game, and enabled the Packers to get on top 7-0.
Well, we're getting a good look at his route here, but actually Brett Favre made this play. He had pressure up inside, scrambled outside. His athletic ability let him get outside, and he found Sterling on the outside out there. It's amazing. They know they're going to him with the ball, but this guy keeps catching balls.
And Sterling Sharp, with those 4 catches, brings his season total to 103. So he's 5 away from tying the record he set last year, the all-time NFL record, and 6 away from a breaker. So we'll watch that as this game goes along. And a look at the first half Coors Light halftime stats. Joe?
Well, I think really both offenses have been pretty much, under wraps. It's been hard for them to get anything going. And I think finally the Green Bay seems to get a real good drive going. They got a couple of good runs in there, made a couple of key plays. Favre scrambles out of the pocket. And I think that's the way this game's going to go. We're not going to have a big offensive production here by anybody. The defenses are dominating. And it's just who makes the key plays at the right time. I'd say that guy right there. I'd say that guy right there right now. He's got my vote for being player of the game.
And if you don't know who it is, it's Reggie White. Covered up the number 92 and sporting the Joe Gibbs warm or cold weather mask underneath the helmet.
I think he wears that a little better than I do. That's the XL version to get him, Reggie, wrapped away in one.
And back deep to receive the kick from Jeff Jager is Corey Harris and Marcus Wilson. They stand back at the 4-yard line. 7-0 Green Bay at the end of the first half. The only touchdown, the Edgar Bennett 1-yard run coming off the Sterling Sharp 17-yard reception, what set it up. And this is Marcus Wilson who brings it out for Green Bay. And Green Bay will begin at the 26, 1st and 10. Brett Favre. And the numbers for Brett Favre in the first half, he was 8 of 20 for 104 yards. So Brett Favre has indeed gone over the 3,000-yard passing mark and has become the second Packer in history to post 2 3,000-yard passing seasons. Ball just across the 25, and on first down, Favre to the air, and he is looking for Ed West, who makes the reception. And West brings it all the way down to the 41-yard line, but they're going to mark him down much shorter than that at midfield. 24-yard gain by the veteran Ed West.
This is a very tough throw to make. This is a seam route, right up the seam with the tight end. The quarterback's got to have a good touch to get it up and over the line and get it down before the secondary has a chance to break on the ball. I tell you, that was a heck of a catch and a heck of a throw.
Ed West, the former starter before the emergence of Jackie Harris. Jackie Harris hurting his knee for the second time last week. This is Darrell Thompson, who might have lost a yard, and we'll take our first time out of the second half and head to New York and Jim Lampley.
Dan, here's a big event in Buffalo, paying off the opening drive of the second half. Boomer Esiason on the back line of the end zone. He hits former Bill Chris Burkett with the touchdown that puts the Jets in front of the Bills, 14-13 in the third. Back to Dan and Joe.
All right, Jim, not quite as much offense here at Lambeau Field. Opening moments of the third quarter, Green Bay with a 7-0 lead over Los Angeles. And the Packers, the ball squarely at midfield for them. Second down and 10. That is Sterling and Sharp in motion to the near side, and he catches the quick hitter from Favre and picks up the first down. He is inside the 40 of the Raiders. And a scuffle is broken out at the 30-yard line. I tell you, the Raiders were involved in a number of scuffles last week in Los Angeles in their game against Tampa Bay when they were penalized some 12 times for over 100 yards.
This is an example of just going in motion right here and really just getting to find a little hole in zone coverage again. We talked to Art Shell about his team, and he said, listen, we've got to keep our composure. We can't get caught up in fights. And that's what's been happening with the Raiders, a lot of penalties. And he said, hey, what I've been preaching is, hey, look, keep your composure. Don't hurt the team. And he's exactly right. You can't afford to sacrifice 15 yards, and put your team in bad field position.
Fifth reception of the game for Sterling Sharp on the left side. This is Darrell Thompson. And getting back to Sterling Sharp, that is his 104th catch of the season. So now 4 away from tying the 108 reception mark he set last week, or last year, I should say. And now just 5 away from breaking it. There is the historic number set last year, and Sterling Sharp continues to add to his sparkling resume. In his 6th year out of South Carolina, the former #1 pick back in '88. 2nd down and 6. Play action. Favre rolling to his right, and this time Mark Chimera, the tight end, very close to the 1st down. In fact, he may have picked it up. Needed to get inside the 30 to about the 29. Got inside the 30, but not quite enough.
And you see Favre here, he's telling everybody, hey, let's go. A great drive right here. Starts off with that little seam route. They pumped the ball a couple of times running it, then a little bootleg. This is a great job of play selection right here. Mike Holmgren is doing a heck of a job calling plays, and got a good drive going right now.
And that is the very first catch for Mark Chimera of the season, the 2-time All-American.
This comes off of the run that Green Bay just went with. See the little play action fake? This is the rage in the league right here. Little bootleg pass. The tight end actually blocks down as if he's trying to block and then slips out on the backside. And Favre does a good job with the fake.
Chimera, his 2nd year at Boston College, the 6th round pick, picking up some extra playing time with Jackie Harris out of the lineup. He, along with Ed West, are the 2 tight ends for Green Bay. This is Edgar Bennett going right, and Bennett will get to about the 27. And that'll bring up 2nd down as we roll through more of the scores. The Jets, we just showed you the highlights of their 14-13 lead there. Detroit continuing to hang on to the 10-7 lead over the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field. And Philadelphia leading New Orleans 18-12. New Orleans, another one of those teams which the Packers are watching closely today.
And we get a good close-up of some of the Raiders' shoes. You see the different selections that people are going with on the frozen turf today.
2nd down and 8. Edgar Bennett. And Bennett down to the 23. That'll bring up 3rd down. Joe Kelly, the 2nd leading tackler for Los Angeles, made the stop.
You realize that Green Bay really, they don't have an advantage as far as players in cold weather and all that, but I think they do have an advantage in equipment. That's what I was trying to say, Dan. And the shoes, the gloves that they wear, I mean, they're just used to being in this kind of weather. That was a heck of a defensive play there, because there was a pretty good hole there. I thought for a second we're going to have a big gainer. But I think that's where the advantage comes for Green Bay. They're used to being in this. I think their selection of shoes, gloves, they just have the equipment to be able to operate with. It doesn't matter how good of an athlete you are if you can't stand up and you're slipping and sliding on the turf.
Green Bay takes its first time out of the 2nd half. They lead it 7-0.
What do you do when Four-Wheeler Magazine crowns you Pickup Truck of the Year? You leap up in the air. You take a bow. And you give the runners-up a big wet one on the cheek. Chevy S-Series, Four-Wheeler Pickup Truck of the Year. Further proof that everything else is history.
You can't resist. There's no bag chip you can pop like this. Chips and bags got busted pieces. Brings you down with all their greases. Jalapenos can't stop. Pop the Pringles dance. You got the stack, you got the bunch. For a whole lot of taste of the Pringles crunch. You got the duck-bill lizard too. Only Pringles rings taste like this to you. The Pringles can't stop. Pop the Pringles dance. So can those bags of fresh whole chips. Nothing like Pringles crush your lips. Yeah, once you pop, you can't stop.
The NFL on NBC is brought to you by the new Chevy S-Series line of trucks. So new from the inside out, everything else is history. By Energizer brand batteries. Nothing outlasts the Energizer. They keep going and going and going. By Pringles. so fresh, once you pop, you can't stop. And by Keystone, Keystone Light and Keystone Dry. Bottled beer taste in a can. Wouldn't that be great?
10:04 left in the third quarter. The Green Bay Packers blew a chance to clinch a playoff spot last week when they lost to Minnesota 21-17 at County Stadium. And here at Lambeau Field, they have pretty good field position. Brett Favre complete to Sterling Sharp. Can he get in? Yes! Touchdown, Sterling Sharp. "23 yards on the strike from Favre to Sharp. Touchdown number 11 on the season for Sharp."
I tell you, that was a well-designed play. Sharp, watch him come in motion down here and form a little bunch. See 3 receivers all together, and then he explodes right back to the outside. The defense couldn't react to that. They were in man coverage and couldn't get off of it quick enough to pick it back up at the end. He got the ball in the flat.
Well, that was Eddie Anderson who had a shot at Sharp, and the reaction from Brett Favre.
He likes the call. He's telling the coach, hey, good call.
Jackie's point after is good, and Green Bay a step closer to its first playoff berth since 1972. They extend it to 14-0.
At Geo, we've thought a lot about safety. That's why Geo Prism comes with standard dual airbags and available anti-lock brakes. In addition, it's equipped with a rugged steel safety cage. You see, we not only want to make accidents easier to avoid, we also want to make them easier to walk away from.
Call 1-800-GET-TO-KNOW and get to know Geo Prism with over 100 standard safety features.
Wouldn't it be great? Yeah! If you invented a special potion that turned anybody into Rachel Hunter, the supermodel.
Ralph, would you take me for a walk?
Cool.
Ralph, we gotta work all weekend.
All weekend.
And your special potion turned ordinary beer in a can into Keystone, Keystone Light, and Keystone Dry, specially lined for really smooth bottle beer taste. Ralph, mind if I join your party? Sure, Bert. Come on over. Wouldn't that be great?
Interested in the president of a gardening catalog company needs a reliability advantage. Now, we at AT&T are dedicated to ensuring you'll never miss an 800 call. Introducing our specially trained AT&T service representatives at the Maximum Advantage Service Center. We're committed to helping you get the most from our 800 service because we want your business to have every advantage, as much as you do.
What happens when a receiver comes in motion like this and winds up behind 2 other receivers? It causes confusion by the defense, and then he just simply shot right back out in the flat, catches the ball, makes a great run, and then, of course, you see his quarterback loves it, and then he turns around to his coach right there and says, hey, great call. Everybody did a good job there.
Meanwhile, the Rocket, Ragib Ismail, takes the kickoff return from Jackie, gets it across the 35, but Sterling Sharp, that 23-yard strike puts him over the 100-yard mark for the 5th time this season, 24 career as you look at the scoring drive, and right now Sterling Sharp has 105 receptions this season. He may get that mark of 108 he set last year and maybe surpass it. Meanwhile, the Raiders, they're also looking for a playoff spot, a wild card spot. They trail it 14-0, 1st and 10 from the 36. And Hostetler feels the pressure. Tony Bennett just ran over Hostetler. 5th sack of the year for Bennett.
Green Bay's been getting good pressure all day anyway, Dan. And now that down 14-0, really, I think Green Bay's just saying, hey, we're not going to worry about the run. Raiders have not been able to run, and they're putting tremendous pressure. It looks like in this case they may have got Haas in this case, because I tell you, that was a big hit when he came in there, Dan, the way he hit him. You see Art Shell coming out to check out his quarterback.
I was going to say, you don't see Art Shell come out of the field. much at all, but he's out there now as Hostetler is still down. And Vince Evans, the 14-year veteran out of USC, has begun to warm up on the sidelines.
We talked about before the game that really we felt like the offense, when you talk to everybody with the Raiders, that it was going to fall on Hostetler's shoulders. And here he's trying to make a play. And see, he just held the ball there, Dan. When you hold the ball that long, and that means that things are covered downfield. And you get your quarterback, anytime you don't go back and right now set, throw, and you start holding that ball and working that ball in your hands like that, the pass rush is having a chance to get to you. He didn't even see him coming from his blind side.
Hostetler, in the process, the hit by Bennett, fumbled the football, and it was the right tackle, a heads-up play by Bruce Wilkerson, who recovered it. But Bennett, with his 5th sack of the year, has put the Raiders in a deep hole, 2nd down and 16, and it's good to see Haas at least upright, but you can see by the expression on his face.
Yeah. You got a good picture there of his eyes. I think he's dazed a little bit right now. He was looking to his left, never saw the pass rush coming from the right, and that's the reason why quarterbacks these guys have to be mentally tough, Dan. They're normally in positions where they're not defending themselves. In other words, he's not like a offensive lineman or a linebacker here looking to defend himself.